What industry should I pick? That is the number one question I get from people who are beginning their QLA journey and looking at what industry to go after and consolidate. Dan Peña, for 25 years, has been saying healthcare and telecom has now been replaced basically by the internet. Still good industries to look at, but the reason to go into them is not solely because Dan or I say that they're good industries. The reason you should go into them is that you have some feel for what you're going to do to improve that industry, and I'll explain that in a minute. So what do you look for? You look for fragmented industries. You look for high margins, and that's defined as better than 20% gross profit. But the real question is, what are you going to do first, better, or different? As a CEO who had bought and sold multiple $100 million plus companies said to one of my mentees, Edgar, I really don't care what you're going to tell me until you answer one question. And that one question is, how is the world a better place because of your great idea? Now, how's an industry better? How's a customer relationship and interaction better? If you're on the medical side, how's the patient experience better? And until you can answer that question, he didn't have any interest in knowing the rest of the details. So why is that? Primary reason for that is also-rans are reasonably boring. You just cut up a marketplace differently. However, if you have a way that you can improve that industry, you can basically revolutionize the industry. And let me give you an example of this. We all know who Amazon is. Amazon delivers by Prime in the United States within a couple of days. Some places in the U.S. within 2 hours if you're near a warehouse. And then in New Jersey, they implemented a plan where they are going to deliver the product that you order within 30 minutes by a drone. And when I mentioned that to my mentee, because he had been thinking that he had to do a business plan, I said, think about that for a second. You don't need to know what frequency drones operate on, what air regulations govern drones. All you need to know to understand that is we deliver to our customers within 30 minutes of them ordering by drone, and it's a game changer. Now, if you try to attract a dream team, which I would highly suggest you do if you follow the QLA steps, talking to them about something like that, as opposed to talking to them about, well, I want to do what everybody else is going to do, you will get much, much more interest if you do the first rather than the second. So how do you begin to do that? How do you begin to look for an industry, and how do you look to improve it? Well, one of the things you can do is whatever the industry is that you're interested in, and I would suggest that you pick something that you can be passionate about. High-performance guys, or big hitters, as Dan calls them, will usually ask you a couple of questions. The first one is, why is this important to you? And then secondly, what are you going to do differently or different within the industry? But looking at one-star reviews, if you go to any industry, put in reviews, you'll get Yelp or Amazon reviews or any number of review sites. Don't look at the 5-star. Go down and look at the 1-star reviews and note what people complain about. I did this with a person the other day in the hotel business, and over again, you saw the same things: inattentiveness of staff, poor service, cleanliness, food was terrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can then take those items and you can begin to say, okay, what can we do to improve them? And how can we make that a game changer? And that's where you want to be, certainly. And then you want to begin to reach out, and I suggest on LinkedIn, talk to some industry experts. You're interviewing for a board, and make sure you say that. Make sure that you will be adding an industry expert, and talk to them about what they see as potential opportunities. Now, rather than just call up like everybody else and pick their brain, explain to them that you're interviewing. Explain to them that you will have an industry expert on your board. Explain to them that board members will never be asked for capital and will, in fact, be given founders equity. That gives them a reason why they should talk to you rather than just you picking their brain. Now, I was asked a lot of times and so often about picking an industry and dream team that I decided to do a boot camp. And basically, it'll be 4 weeks. It'll be an hour each week with a presentation, Q&A. It will be live, but we'll record the webinar so that if you can't see it at the time that it's live, you can go back and look at it recorded. Whether this is for you, I can't answer that. I think it would be helpful if you're beginning the journey and you want to understand the QLA process with respect to picking an industry and picking a dream team. Those are the only 2 of the 7 steps that we're going to go through in those boot camps. But we're going to do a deep dive on it so that when you finish, you'll know how to pick an industry, how to do it, how to assemble a dream team, which oftentimes is a lot easier than you might think. So I do not know when you are going to listen to this podcast, if you are going to listen to the podcast, but if you are hearing this, obviously you're listening to it. So why don't you email me? This is my personal email, bruce@brucewhipple.com. If you're interested in that boot camp, just let me know that. I'll send you the details for it, and I think I'll end up doing this more than once. So depending upon when you listen to this and when we are in the cycle, you can end up having one pretty quickly, or it may be a period of time. But the details we'll go through. So I hope that's helpful. Make sure that you pay attention to what you're going to do first, better, different. That's something that a lot of people skip. And if you have a unique way to improve an industry or change an industry, you're going to find that the whole process from picking dream team members, picking accountants and lawyers, financial institutions, and actually interacting with acquisitions where they're not for sale, which is a whole nother subject, will be much, much easier. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments or ideas for future episodes, please email bruce@brucewhipple.com. And if you're not already on our mailing list, head over to brucewhipple.com and sign up and grab any of the free reports. That'll put you on the mailing list. There is a lot of free information you can use to acquire already profitable businesses. This is Bruce Whipple. Thanks for listening to the Business Acquisition Podcast. And remember, you miss 100% of the opportunities you fail to take. And procrastination truly is the thief of time. So do something today, please. Your future self will be proud of you.